What branch of the military did you serve in when?
So I served in the United States Army. So there are the Marines, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and now we even have a Space Force. So I actually served in the Army.
How did you choose your branch of service?
So I actually wanted to serve in the Air Force straight out of high school, but my mom really encouraged me to go to college because I had a really strong scholarship at Penn State. So I ended up going to Penn State and majored in elementary education, which is why I'm a teacher now. But I always wanted to serve in the military, so really wanted to serve in the Air Force. But the Army National Guard gave me a really awesome package, if you will. So they just gave me a lot of benefits that helped me as a teacher.
What inspired you to enlist in the military?
What inspired me to enlist in the military? I think just my passion to want to serve the country. Also, I just found growing up, I just thought soldiers and people in the military were so cool. I just thought I always wanted to wear the uniform. But then I began to grow up and learn what it means to wear that uniform, the sacrifices it takes to wear the uniform. And it was a sacrifice that I was willing to do for the people around me.
What do you remember about the day you enlisted?
Ooh, that was I was nervous. It was a summer day in July, and I just remember feeling very nervous, and I even second guessed myself. I said, "Is this for real? What you want to do? Is this? Are you sure?" But I remember once I took the oath, I felt really happy, and I felt proud of myself. So it was a day full of emotions.
How did your family and friends react to your decision to join the military?
There was mixed reactions. Some people in my family felt you're already a teacher, you're already an educator. You've worked hard to accomplish that. Why would you want to also join the army? And others felt proud of me. And I think everyone felt proud. I just think there was some worry because of a lot of the conflicts or problems that our country currently has or had at the time with other countries. And I think that they were getting nervous about what could happen to me now that I was a part of the Army. But I think overall they were proud of me.
What did you learn about yourself while you were in the military?
What did I learn about myself while I was in the military? So I think first, Caden, I learned that I have more in me than I thought. You have to physically keep up in the military, mentally keep up in the military, emotionally keep up. And it really triggers you to activate in you something deeper. You can't say no. You have to follow orders. You also have to really make sure that you're being passionate and coming to work every single day and trying your best. So I think it taught me some skills that helped me still, even as your teacher, as your classroom teacher.
What did your time in the military teach you?
I think aside from learning more about myself, I think the military taught me a lot of structure. It taught me how what are expected and unexpected things to do in the workplace. And I think even as a classroom teacher, it taught me a lot about having structure that now I can translate into structure for you guys, structure for my students, structure for my classroom, my approach to working. The military wants you to work hard, and every hour, every minute you give, it should be 100%. 100%. So I do that in the classroom, or when I'm talking to your parents, or when I'm talking to other teachers and colleagues in the district. I try to give it my all.
What would you say to a young person who's considering joining the military?
I would say first for a young person to think about why. Why do they want to join? Because that why is going to have to carry you. If you aren't sure, you're going to second guess yourself a lot. So you have to always remember that why and let that why be the reason. to remind you every single day when you're working hard, when you're, physically like drained, when you're so tired, you still have to get up like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and get ready for your post. Like, those are the reasons that, you're gonna remember, like, this is why I'm doing it.
What branch of the military did you serve and when?
What branch of the military did I serve and when?
Yeah.
So I served in the United States Navy, to answer the question we were talking about, and I was in the Navy. I was in the Navy I was in college, sort of, and then on active duty after that. So it would be from about get these numbers right, 87 till around 1993. It's a long time ago.
How did you choose your branch of service?
How did I choose my branch of service? So I went to college on something called an Navy ROTC scholarship. So what that meant is that the Navy paid for a lot of my college education. And then in return, when I graduated from college, I went into the Navy and served in the Navy. So that was kind of how I picked it. It was mostly my mom who read about it and said, why don't you apply for this scholarship? And I did, and then I got the scholarship, and I ended up in the Navy. That's how I picked.
What inspired you to enlist in the military?
So that's a tricky question. I saw that question when I was looking at the questions. Technically, I didn't enlist. So in the military, you have enlisted personnel and you have an officer corps. The basic difference is that when you enlist, you generally haven't gone to college yet. And if you're in the officer corps, you go to college. So I went right into the officer corps because I went in after I graduated from college in that program. So that's kind of how that happened.
What do you remember about the day you enlisted?
So the question doesn't exactly fit. I will tell you what I most remember about my first day in the Navy. So when I went to college, I was part of the ROTC program at my college. And that meant that every week I had to, in addition to being a college student, I had to do things for the Navy. Every Friday morning we would wake up and we would go to something called drill. And I'd have to be up super early on Friday mornings where everybody else was sleeping on Friday mornings. And I went down to, I went to college at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And our drill field, at least until it got too cold, was right behind the Lincoln Memorial. And I learned how to march. And we would get in columns and we marched all around. You learned how to do commands and march all over the place. But the thing I most remember was my very first day I got to college. I had to go to college like 3 days early to then do some Navy training. And the first thing they did to me when I got there is they took us all in, and I had gotten my hair cut very short because there were these regulations about how short your hair had to be and everything, but nobody's hair was short enough, and they sat us in a barber chair, and the barber shaved everybody's hair all off, basically. I actually got a really haircut, good one. Mine wasn't as bad as most people. Most people were bald. They left me at least a little hair. I guess I got a nice barber. Then we got on a bus, and we drove about 45 minutes to a place called Quantico, Virginia, which is a Marine base. And for 3 days, we got treated like Marines. I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day to somebody banging trash cans, waking us up, and that was a lot of fun. So that's what I most remember about the beginning. Okay, Clara.
How did your family and friends react to your decision to join the military?
Yeah, that's a good one. My family knew what was going on, and I was going to do this scholarship, but most of my friends were like, you're going to be in the military? How are you going to be in the military? And it's funny because Mr. Kane was who's one of our other teachers here, was looking at these questions this morning, and he said, maybe it was because you're so good at taking orders. That's why you wanted to be in the military. So most people thought it was crazy that I was going into the military because they thought, how are you going to take orders from anybody? But it worked out okay.
What did you learn about yourself while you were in the military?
Oh, that's easy. I could take orders, even though it didn't seem like I could. No, I learned how to be part of you. If you're going to be in the military, you have to be like you're part of a team. And it's a little different. Like I played sports a lot growing up. You guys play, you're in different activities, you're on teams and things. So the military is kind of like that, just in a little bit more serious of a way. So I learned that I could do that.
What did your time in the military teach you?
did my time in the military teach me? I would say probably that the military is a really good place for lots of different people. Like the amount of people I met from different places and different backgrounds. Like I literally, in the little bit of time I spent in the Navy, met somebody from every state in the United States. I had good friends from all over the United States, and it was all these people that were very different in a lot of ways, all kind of working towards a common goal. So I would say that's probably my biggest learning thing.
Do you have a particular moment that stands out from your time in the military?
Particular moment that stands out from my time in the military. I will give you this one. So part of my training, I ended up being an intelligence officer in the Navy, and you could work with all different branches of the Navy doing that. And part of the training that kind of led up to that was getting some experience with, in the Navy, there's basically, you could be in the surface Navy, which is you're on a ship. You could be in submarine. A lot of people serve on a submarine. There are naval pilots and flight officers where you are a pilot. You're up in planes and jets. So I did all those things for a little bit of time in training. And I remember I was in an F-14 fighter jet, and I was in the back seat. It's a 2-seat fighter jet. And the pilot was in the front, and I was in the back, and he was telling me things to do. It was like 9 million knobs and switches, and I was like, I have no idea. He wasn't really giving me anything important to do. Like, I couldn't make the plane crash or anything, thank goodness, because I was just guessing at what to do. But what I most remember is by the time I got out of the plane, my head hurt because the helmet was so heavy from flying around the plane. I was like, I can't believe these guys wear this helmet all this time in this jet while they have to do this job. So that's one. Clara, you're up.
What would you say to someone who is considering joining the military?
What would I say to someone who's considering? Think about if it's the right life for you. It's a great place to start in life, and then some people like to make a career. I never wanted to stay in the military forever, but it was just a great experience in learning how to lead and be part of a team at the same time. So if you're not sure what you want to do in life when you're first graduating from high school or even college, it's a really good place to get started.
What do you want people to remember about veterans or on Veterans Day and every day?
What do I want people to remember? Just that veterans, people serving in the military, are doing a service for everybody else that gets to live in this country and be free. Right? Those are people that are potentially willing to risk their life to make sure that you and I get to live the life that we're living here every day. That's it. Was that the last question?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Good job.
No problem.
What branch of the military did you serve in and when?
I was in the Navy. I joined right out of high school. I joined in August of 1986, and I served until 1999.
What do you remember about the day you enlisted?
What do I remember? Okay, so I'll give you a little information. The night before I was scheduled to enlist, I was driven to Richmond, Virginia. I grew up in a small town, which was about 90 miles south of Richmond. So the closest military and processing facility was in Richmond. So the night before, I was driven up by my recruiter. Probably the first time I had ever stayed in a hotel by myself because I was 18. And so the day of my enlistment, it was just full of activities. I remembered sitting around talking to other recruits, and recruits are people that are going into the military, talking to other recruits about their feelings about being in the military, what branch they were going to be joining, and just like our fears about enlisting, all those just personal stories that we were swapping. And then the hour came that I was to take the oath. So I remember being in a room probably as big as the gym, and it was just full of people like myself. We stood in unison, raised our right hands, and we recited the enlistment oath. And then afterwards, I remember feeling excited, nervous, fearful, and pride, with pride. So, and then it was off to the races.
What did you learn about yourself while you were in the military?
What did I learn? I work well under pressure. I do like structure. Structure is a lot. And I always tell people I can fold a mean shirt. Sorry.
What would you say to a young person who is considering joining the military?
I would say really think about it really hard, because it is a commitment. Do your homework, ask questions, talk to former veterans, and ask simple questions like, what was boot camp like? Or what was boot camp like? What kind of personality fits well in the military? Just know what kind of career path do you want to have, because you can really have traits that can take you not only just in the military far, but when you get out of the military, you will have a trait that will serve you well in the civilian community. Make sure it's something that you want to do, because it is definitely a commitment.
What do you want people to remember about Veterans Day
every day?
I would say veterans devote their lives to making sure Americans are free, making sure we enjoy the freedoms that sometimes we take for granted. We talk about standing on that wall to defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, both foreign and domestic, and that's a huge sacrifice and a commitment. So thank a veteran.
Thank you for your service, Ms.
It was an honor serving in the military. It actually helped me to become the person that I am today. So you're welcome.